Home Affairs Minister Tony Burke, you heard me at the top of the show, caused a lot of outrage when it was revealed last week he is hosting a citizenship blitz in Western Sydney. More than 4,500 people became citizens in just 3 days at Sydney's Olympic Park. And now Burke is in hot water over allegations he excluded the Independent MP Dai from the ceremony.
The Telegraph's reported, and what I've been told as well, which is in line with what they've reported, that you were told that you were welcome to attend the Homebush ceremony.
No.
You were welcome to attend. That wasn't said to you.
There was nothing mentioned about the Homebush ceremony, Kieran. That's what I'm saying. And to me, this is just, I cannot believe it. I'm really shocked. Nothing was mentioned.
According to the Citizenship Ceremony Code, organisers must invite all elected officials of the locality at all levels of government. Home Affairs say this only applies to invites for elected representatives of the area in which the ceremony is actually being held. Despite this, lead Labor's candidate for Fowler was in attendance at some of these ceremonies. And we understand that many residents sworn in, many of them would also live in that electorate.
For more on this, I'm joined now by the Mayor of Fairfield, Frank Carbone. Frank, thanks for your time. This looks like sheer politicking to me.
Well, it can't be anything but that. I mean, I can tell you I've been doing citizenship ceremonies for 14 years. I've probably done more ceremonies than any person in this country simply because of the time that I've been here. And this is quite awkward. I've got to say, when I found out, first of all, that they were doing these mass ceremonies, I was really surprised. But I was actually even more offended when they said that there was this huge backlog that councils weren't looking after. Quite simply, normal process is that Home Affairs will let a council know if there's a big backlog, and councils can quite simply ramp up the amount of citizenship ceremonies that we actually do. So I was really surprised that the minister said this, especially when you're talking about a government that never actually believes in Australia Day. So that was really surprising. But then the biggest surprise of that all is that, so we didn't actually have a backlog in Fairfield. Quite simply, the biggest surprise is that there seems to have been only Labor Party members allowed through the door. So you had to have a Labor ticket to get in, because quite obviously, if you're a Labor MP, even if you're from outside the area, you attended the event. You attended the event and you presented certificates. And even the Labor candidate was allowed in the event to present certificates. So quite simply, I was really surprised today what the Prime Minister said, that he said that it was hosted in Reid and that's why other MPs weren't allowed in. But hang on a minute. Anne Stanley was there. Tony Sheldon was there. They were presenting certificates. It's black and white. And the candidate for Fowler were there. None of them represent the electorate of Reid. So why is it that only those Labor Party MPs and Labor candidates were allowed to go there? Quite simply, they turned it into a Labor campaign event and a catwalk for candidates. And the really depressing thing about it all is that citizenship is a wonderful time for the families to celebrate, to join and pledge allegiance to Australia. And what the minister did, he cut down the amount of people that could go and share that beautiful moment. That means that citizens were only allowed to have 2 people. Whereas if in Fairfield you can bring your whole family, you can celebrate, but he increased the amount of people that could come in, such as politicians, as long as you're a Labor Party card-carrying member, a candidate or an MP. And Di was excluded, and I know why she's offended, because quite simply, I know she was not invited.
I also revealed at the top of the show back in November, they very quietly changed the rules to require the AEC, the Electoral Commission, to be present as well, to make sure they were handing out enrolment forms. I think citizens have about 2 years to get on the roll to vote. Well, they don't want to waste their time. They're on the cusp of calling an election. So the AEC were down the back of the room and they were pushing out the forms, getting people to sign up literally there and then, because they must be on the roll when the PM calls it and the writs then close, the roll then closes, after the writs are issued, in order to vote. So that's why there's such a push on this, and that's why I say it's absolute politics.
Well, I can assure you we haven't had any AEC members come to our ceremonies for the last 3 years. Ever since COVID, we haven't seen them. All of a sudden, since November, they've turned up to our ceremonies. They've been pushing people to get on the roll. So obviously something's changed since the new minister has come on board, and that's the big concern. So I don't know what's going on, but what I can tell you is definitely politics. I just heard right now that Local Vietnamese community associations have been invited to go down to Kirribilli to spend the day with the Prime Minister. So quite clearly there's a campaign happening. This, unfortunately, has gone really bad for the Minister. I think that people are really upset because, quite simply, he has misused his position. He's broken his own code, which under the Citizenship Act he can't do. He must invite everybody. You can't have one rule for one and one rule for the other, Peter. He's invited the Labor members and he hasn't invited anyone else. So quite simply, he's misused his position. And he can't do that. If I did that at my ceremonies, I'd be sacked. I would be having citizenship to be taken away from me. And we would never do that because we want it to be bipartisan. It's about people, not about us. And unfortunately, this is what happened, and it's a terrible thing that he's done. And I think he should actually consider his position because I think he's undermined the process of becoming an Australian citizen.
You're not wrong, Frank Carboni. Thank you.